This is the College Football Connection podcast with Marty Jenkins and Alvin Reed on 101 ESPN.
Another painstakingly close clash between chief rivals in the Big Ten, and yet at the end of the afternoon, another all-too-familiar result for one side. Greetings, everybody, and welcome into the latest edition of the College Football Connection Week 10 overtime style for you on 101 ESPN, the YouTube channel, plus 101ESPN.com. I am Bradford Bruns, my guys, Marty Jenkins and Alvin Reed. They'll be along shortly in a few days with me live in studio in Creve Coeur. But right now, hey, if you're out there, if you're enjoying the rest of the weekend slate pro style, or you're already reflecting upon what transpired across campuses nationwide on Saturday, we're here for you, and we appreciate your listening, your watching, your viewing, and just in general staying engaged with us as we are now into week number 10 in college football. It's the month of November. It is clutch time. And yes, while Mizzou may not have been in action, that happens next Saturday, November the 9th, at Faurot Field against the University of Oklahoma. Plenty to dissect. And let's begin with OSU versus PSU, the clash of the Big Ten Titans, not named Oregon, of course, in not-so-happy Valley once more. We have to explain, because in the end, it was Ohio State knocking off and vanquishing the Nittany Lions again by the final of 20-13. And if you tuned in for the very start of this contest, that Fox Big Noon kickoff, you thought to yourself, oh my goodness, Penn State not only marches down the field meticulously so, with Drew Aller at the controls, dressing and playing well in that contest just 1 week after leaving the Wisconsin win with the knee issue, right? You pick off Will Howard, the hometown kid, take it to the house. The pick six makes it 10-0 Penn State in front of that raucous environment of more than 105,000 fans at Beaver Stadium. Is this the chance for Penn State, and specifically the head coach James Franklin, to take that gigantic OSU monkey and heave it, hoist it off of the proverbial back, right? 1-10 overall in head-to-head matchups against Ohio State. That was Franklin entering the game. 1-13 all-time against top 5 outfits in Franklin's tenure with Penn State, year number 11 at the helm. And then things, though, proceeded to just spiral out of control in such a hurry. From quarter number 2 onward, I would contend, watching from my vantage point, yes, on the couch at home, it was striking to me just how quickly and how effectively the adjustments were made by the road team, and namely the offensive coordinator for the Buckeyes, Chip Kelly. He was very precise, and he was able to enact this, I would say, death by 1,000 paper cuts-esque approach. Will Howard, he was nonplussed by the early interception. He took what the opposing defense from Penn State gave to him, and he was more than content with executing the throws in the flat, in the intermediate areas of the field to his receivers. And credit Penn State as well. It's not as if that secondary, and a good one at that, allowed Jeremiah Smith, the stud freshman, to be able to get down the field vertically and get into the end zone. For the first time this season, Smith actually did not hit pay dirt. But I thought that it was very interesting that Kelly was more than willing, more than ready to execute as far as those crossers, those crossing patterns were concerned. And if you're a Mizzou fan, for crying out loud, you would love to see more of that in mid-Missouri, would you not? But the fact of the matter is that Ohio State was meticulous, was surgical-like in the precision, and Will Howard didn't have to throw for 300 yards in this game. No, he was also able to rely on the 1-2 tandem in the backfield, which just 1 week earlier against Nebraska, to say that it was a cumulative, it was a poor performance against the Cornhuskers on the ground from the esteemed likes of Judkins and Henderson. That would not be off base, not when you average 2.1 yards per carry. But yesterday, especially in the second half, post-halftime, we saw just how valuable those guys were with the burst, with the giddy-up, and Penn State wasn't able to respond accordingly. Singleton and Allen, for that matter, coming out of the backfield, didn't have nearly the same degree of juice and wiggle, and Aller could only do so much, right? Ohio State also being able to change up the defenses, going from man to zone and then back again, especially in the waning stages of that fourth quarter. To wit, Penn State still being down then, having relinquished the lead, needed just that score, and you entered Ohio State territory. You were inside of the 10. You were inside of the 5. And yet, in such a bewildering fashion, Andy Koltanicki, who's been terrific as the play caller all season long for the Nittany Lions, he inexplicably opts to run 3 consecutive plays into the interior of the Ohio State defense, which had been nails all afternoon. Nothing going there for Allen whatsoever. And then you attempt to throw up basically a miraculous toss courtesy of Aller on 4th down. It's not happening. Ohio State has the goal line stand, and the defense, which has been maligned at different points this season for not getting the stops when absolutely necessary. See the Oregon game from just a few weeks ago. It is able to spearhead this effort, this victory. Ohio State proceeds to run out the clock, and the Buckeyes and Penn State now have 1 loss apiece, as once again Franklin can't get the job done in terms of leading his team, piloting his team to victory. It was exceedingly close. Now, the final of 20-13, it wasn't as exhilarating as the matchup, the prime matchup as well, just weeks ago between the Ducks and the Buckeyes, right? But right now, with the constitution of the standings in the Big Ten and how week after week you're seeing the upward movement, the downward movement, everybody is just being jumbled up and recycled in a way. The positions are just changing hands, all those different permutations. We get that in the SEC week in and week out, do we not? Well, right now, as far as how yesterday's verdict, as we go along here on the College Football Connection on the 101 ESPN YouTube channel and 101ESPN.com, let's look at how at least the Associated Press Top 25 has proceeded to shake out on the heels of that matchup. You have Ohio State now climbing back into that 3rd spot. Penn State only slips to number 6. That's not surprising. But Oregon goes on the road, goes to Ann Arbor, and pulls out a 21-point road triumph over the Wolverines. That's good enough to make the Ducks basically a near unanimous number 1, and Georgia squeaking it out by and large against Florida, holding steady at the number 2 position. So what do we have now as we're about, again, 48 hours or so from the initial college football playoff rankings? That clash of the Titans yesterday, Penn State falling to Ohio State. Even if those 2 particular programs, they went out to conclude the regular season, you think, all right, they're safe, they're in the mix for the final 12, right? As is Oregon. Well, the pipe dreams that you may have had on the opposite end of the Big Ten spectrum, if you're in Champaign-Urbana, not so great yesterday, right? Allowing 23 points, allowing Minnesota to storm back and to win that contest. Illinois, not shockingly, dropping out of the top 25, going from 24 to the others receiving votes category. The same goes, we should note, for Mizzou as well. First in that line now, despite being idle. In Illinois yesterday, we talked about it last week on the College Football Connection regular edition on 101ESPN.com. Would there be a hangover-ish effect after that Oregon drubbing? Illinois never looked consistent, never looked as effective as it has for prolonged stretches of the regular season on offense. Altmaier was fine. Minnesota had been playing well, now 4 consecutive wins for the Gophers too. But that defense absolutely stymied the Illinois attack, and now Brett Bielema's squad in real danger of perhaps finishing the regular season in a very 2022-esque manner, as opposed to what you had in terms of aspirations just a couple of short weeks ago. What will Illinois do next week? What will Mizzou do? We're going to have more of the lowdown for you when we return. The full gang, of course, on the College Football Connection on the 101 ESPN YouTube channel, as well as 101ESPN.com. Don't forget, Mizzou out of the rankings right now. We're not even talking about the CFP variety, are we? No. But matched up against Oklahoma, is Brady Cook going to go? We will hear from Eli Drinkwitz. We will hear about all of the latest reports and the updates. Always appreciate your rocking with us here on 101ESPN.com. My name is Bradford Bruns. Until next time, take care, everybody.
You've been listening to the College Football Connection podcast with Marty Jenkins and Alvin Reed on 101 ESPN Sports Talk for St. Louis.